My name is Eric Sepperstein. I'm 38 years old and I live in Pennington, New Jersey. I'm in the restoration and reproduction business, and I got into that early in my life. I've actually been told that I fell out of my mother and landed into a pile of sawdust, walked into my father's shop and began to work on things. I found out early on that I love restoration. I like to bring things back to life that have experienced the passage of time and seen history. And that actually leads into what I dislike most about this business, is we are constantly fighting the misconception that you can't restore things. Firearms are at the top of that list of things people believe that you can't restore. It makes no sense to me to have something in your collection that is dysfunctional and, in the case of a firearm, unsafe, when it can be restored and used and enjoyed by future generations. I think the concept is you bring life back into it and take something that once was capable of going bang, make it able to go bang again. It's a lot of fun. Go ahead, make my day.
I said my diatribe. Yeah. We're back again. Yeah. Again, we've been covering it all. Has the chocolate affected you, Kurt? Because it's good. Oh, hi. We're back again. We've covered a lot of things. Wendy Bliss from Bliss Travels. Star to be Nicole George. We just had the awesome Fudge people. Now we have a serious conversation. I'm going to try to be serious again, but I doubt it.
Good luck.
We're in what some people call the People's Republic of Princeton, even though I don't really think so, but it has changed. The dynamic of this town has changed. It used to be pretty different types of political followings, but now it's gotten more lefty and less tolerant. So when I told people, we're going to discuss the Second Amendment and guns, they're like, ew, which I found, I'm not, I have my own strong feelings, but I'm like, let's listen to what people have to say, but they're instantly a knee-jerk reaction. This guy must be a gun nut. What do I mean? That's a great way to introduce you. Frank, how do you say your last name first?
Fiamingo.
Why not flamingo? I like that better.
I know, and it looks like flamingo too, because you can't tell the difference between the I and the L.
Fiamingo, that's a good name.
That's a fiamingo. It's a nice
name.
Italian.
Okay, I'm going to be serious. We're going to discuss the Second Amendment. We're going to try to get some cultural perspective from Anglo-American historian, the esteemed Sir Dr. John Whitehead, and then we have from us New Jersey's own, the New Jersey Second Amendment Society, Mr. Frank Jack Fiamingo. We're going to discuss gun rights. See how much we can get in. We might get into a little debate, or at least a sidebar. But first, and concisely as possible, Dr. Whitehead is going to give us a background about gun rights, gun law from English common law, which bled into, of course, the American experience. Okay, our English cousin.
Thank you very much. Well, I'd like to tell the viewers exactly what the Second Amendment is.
And feel free to...
The Second Amendment was one of 10 amendments to the Constitution which were adopted in 1791. Of course, the first is the right to free speech, which we're all enjoying this evening. The Second Amendment was well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed.
Mm-hmm. Can I stop right there quickly? We can fight all that. Militia meaning what? Just
militia is a county or local people protecting the country from invasion. America is a new country without a regular standing army, and so it made sense for the founders to allow the citizens to bear arms to protect the country.
Well, also at the time there was Indians, Native
Americans.
Of course.
But the colonists were very distrustful of a standing army, because you have to remember these were individual colonies, right? The states. And they were used to self-determination. So the last thing in the world that they wanted, they agreed to a federal, centralized federal government under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So the militia, though, made up all of the people, all the able-bodied men at that time, white men, free men at that time, of course it's changed, of the time. So able-bodied people is really what
But
it
the
was.
founding fathers, if you read the Federalist Papers, a lot of the founding fathers distressed the masses. I got the view that one reason they wanted a militia was actually to put down insurrection of the people too. We had Shays' Rebellion and everything.
Well, just the opposite, as a matter of fact. I mean, the idea of a militia and the idea of the right to keep and bear arms was their experience with Britain was such that they never wanted the people to be in a position where they could be, their future, their rights could be determined by a tyrannical government.
Especially one that
So
was
that's how
far
they
away.
looked at. That's how they looked at King George and the British government.
Look at the
at
Jeffersonian
Can I just
concept
interrupt?
that
Can I
a
just
little
interrupt you there?
rebellion is a good thing now and then.
One of the things which I'd like to bring up is actually England was very unique. It was the only country that trusted its people to carry weapons, because weapons in times of crisis and riots could be turned against the government. England was unique in that it actually equipped its army with peasant soldiers with this weapon, which is the
But
longbow.
against who and why?
This was really during the 100 Years' War between England and France. England being an island and also with a very strong sense of national identity, facing the common threat of the French, the English kings actually decreed that all men between the ages of 15 and 60 should be equipped with the longbow, and went further. The archery law of 1363 of Edward III decreed that after Sundays, all men and boys had to practice archery on pain of death. So really bonded the country together, and there was also a sense that the Englishmen regarded the longbow as their weapon, and there was a sense of national
nationalism,
pride, a
right.
sense of national pride that you are better than the French, you are better than the Italians, and this was our weapon. This had originally been used by the Welsh against the English in the reign of Edward I in the 1280s and 1290s. And the English were beaten soundly. It was used as a guerrilla weapon. And so the later Plantagenet kings realized that in the hands of an expert, this was a ferocious weapon. It was the medieval equivalent of a machine gun.
It was a technological
innovation. And a skilled archer could shoot an arrow every 4 seconds.
But let's get us into evolution. As you said, everything evolved. English common law is
Yes.
present in evolution. So is American common law. So where's the American experiment here? And this huge debate we have.
Well, the American experiment is that, when you look at the reason and you read the writings of the framers of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the idea, in my opinion, was that they were trying to keep, it is my interpretation, that they intended that the balance of power be kept in the hands of the people. Because after all, right, what does it say? This is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say that the Constitution and Bill of Rights were meant to support the rights
But
of the
times
people.
change. We have nuclear waste. We have automatic shotguns. We have gang problems. We have illegal handguns.
Exactly, and those some of the reasons why an individual needs to be armed. Okay, when you say we have drug problems, we have gang problems, those are this violence that exists out there, and concentrated, as we were talking before, in the cities. And
But
so
Chicago,
if you happen
New
to,
Orleans,
right,
New
Chicago,
York,
Detroit,
Detroit.
Camden,
Detroit.
then if you are in a situation where you as a resident of the state have to travel through those areas or have to work in those areas, you are at risk for carjackings, you're at risk for muggings, you're at risk for just random, a drug dealer, a drug addict who needs a fix isn't thinking and doesn't care who you are or whether you're driving through, walking through, or whatever. So to say that an individual doesn't have the right to protect themselves once they leave their doorstep, see, we all agree that you have the right to self-defense in your home, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So to say that once you leave your doorstep, somehow you lose that right?
But that's a sweeping statement. We have a collective, like we were discussing this before. This is a collective. We have a society. If you can say in the long term, it's not beneficial to have people armed because they don't use guns right. They shoot wildly. They can't get to them in time. Does it really offshoot the need to defend yourself?
Well, when you use the word collective, that makes me bristle because collective does not exist in and of itself. Individuals can exist
But
in
it
and
forms
of themselves.
another
A
entity.
collective can only exist as a collection of individuals. So we have to concentrate on individual rights before we can look in terms of
Can I
collective
just
rights.
stop in
Oh, please.
for a second?
And get your gun.
Exactly. I would actually like to say how England has evolved. We've actually had, a longer history than the United States. And in many cases, America is an evolving democracy. Britain is more of I would say, a mature democracy. And we went through a lot of teething pains, which I think America is going through now.
Complete with a lot of conflicting,
With a lot of
lobbying
conflicting
power.
lobbying. And one of
politics.
the issues which I would like to bring to the attention of the viewers was that in the 19th century, as England became much more industrialized, there was the issue of how do we control crime? How do we control law and order? And Britain was the first country to found a national police force in 1829
Because you
by
also
Sir
had
Robert,
labor
Robert
unrest
Peel.
too,
We
yeah.
had a lot of labor unrest after the Napoleonic Wars, which ended in 1815. And there was one very nasty incident in St. Petersfield, Manchester, in which a crowd of about 60 to 80,000 people, peaceful, they were protesting against the parliamentary system of government, which really wasn't representative of ordinary working people. And they were campaigning for better working conditions, better wages, and the authorities sent in the army. That was the only way to handle a disturbance in the 19th century.
And they're not used to police. They're more
They were
aggressive.
not, exactly, and they sent in the Manchester Yeomanry with sabres. They killed 15 people and injured over 600. And this was a very cathartic incident in Britain. The names of the killed and the wounded were published in newspapers. It actually led to the formation of the Manchester Guardian newspaper, now called The Guardian. And that campaigned vigorously for improvements in working conditions, improvements in the franchise, and the 1832 Reform Bill, which increased the franchise. Before that time, only 40-shilling freeholders had the vote. So we were behind America, particularly if you look at states like
But how does
Pennsylvania.
this come to guns, gun ownership?
How this comes to gun ownership was that the police force, which was formed by Sir Robert Peel in 1829, was specifically not given guns. And they were given blue uniforms to distinguish themselves from the army, which wore redcoats at this time. And it was felt that there had to be a trust between the people and the government, and that this trust had been broken by the Peterloo massacre, and so that they wanted law and order, but the British people did not want their police officers to carry guns. For some time they carried swords. There was actually sabres were used in the Metropolitan Police, but for most of its history since 1829 the British police officer has been armed only with the truncheon.
And that gives you the dynamic criminal. They said the criminals know the police won't shoot them, so they're not going to shoot the policemen. But here in America, it's everything's so diverse. It's a big country, 50 different states. What are you looking at? Can there be some congressional scrutiny, constitutional scrutiny, and limitation in gun ownership? As Kurt said, has the NRA gone too far? I mean, there's some
No,
things.
I don't think the NRA's gone too far. As I said before, I think that the NRA existed because there was a serious problem. We had a tremendous movement to ban guns. We don't want guns banned in the United States of America because we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. Okay, and as such, we have guidelines that we must follow. Okay,
But they can't be changed.
They can be changed, but they haven't been changed. So as it stands right now, the Second Amendment is the law of the land. So how can it's a bit schizophrenic to say that you have the right, the individual right to keep and bear arms, which was confirmed by the Heller and McDonald courts, that we do have the individual right to keep and bear arms, and yet in New Jersey, there's no right to keep and bear arms at all.
Well, yeah, the scrutiny, and I don't know if it passes constitutional muster, is pretty strict. In blue states in the Northeast with large urban populations, it's much stricter. It is. But maybe there's a good reason. I guess it's, do we need assault weapons? Some bullets should be banned.
What's an assault weapon? I mean, if I pick this up and hit you over the head with it, it's an assault weapon.
No, but I mean automatic.
Automatic weapons is a different story. In New Jersey, they're not, you can't really have one.
I guess that's, I mean, I guess they keep on saying common sense reform. Shouldn't some of them be reenacted? Maybe you know more
See,
than
the position of the NRA nationally, and I don't, and your group is New Jersey Second
we
Amendment.
have,
Decide, yeah,
we have to give him his highlights
what,
too.
What comes across to the general public is the
True or
NRA
not
wants
is-
no restrictions on guns whatsoever, no matter what.
And they say if they take one thing
Here's the-
away, it's going to start a,
Well,
you know, a
and
slippery
that's
slope.
true, and that's true, and we've seen that, because they whittle away, you know, now you can only have 15-round magazines in New Jersey, but now Senator, what's this, Lou Greenwald wants to make it 10. Why not make it, why not make it 3?
Should a mentally ill person be able to go
Absolutely
into a
not.
gun store and
Absolutely not.
That's a restriction.
Well, absolutely not, but those are the exceptions, okay? There are 2 exceptions. If you've committed a violent felony or you've been adjudicated mentally incompetent.
But then why don't we have comprehensive national, like they do it for licenses, way to vet people with their national computer?
Yes, I actually fall somewhere in between. I believe, as my colleague said here, that a gun is no more than a tool. It's no more than an axe
And it
or
can
a
be
spade
recreational,
or
it's
anything
part of
else.
lifestyles.
And I
agree with that,
personally
yeah.
agree. I think hunting is fine. But I also agree that there has to be some safeguards to public's safety.
A nation has to grow.
And
at a civilized pace, I
there
think.
has to be some balance here, and I think America is grappling with how to give people freedom and at the same time protect the people from crazed gun killers who go around shooting kids in Connecticut schools, which are
But those
absolutely
are 2 different
abhorrent.
stories. You know, criminal possession of a firearm is already illegal. Okay, so we're not even talking about that. And those people who lose touch with reality, like this kid who did what he did
In
in
Virginia,
Newtown,
the
he
Virginia
he
Tech
wasn't
guy
a
should
law.
have gotten a gun.
He wasn't a law-abiding.
And his mom was stupid too.
He shot his mom in the face and stole her weapons and started killing
Yeah.
people. So you're never ever going to stop all, you know, every instance of this from
You see,
happening.
that the general public has access to automatic weapons.
Yes.
Do you need an automatic weapon to defend yourself in
Well,
these situations?
I'm going to answer this the way that
I don't believe so. Personally, I believe that as a hunter, I would need 1 shot to kill a deer, 1 arrow to kill a turkey.
Okay, when you're driving through, now you're concerned about driving through Canada.
Right, when you're in your home and 5 attackers break through your
come on,
door.
how many-
Five?
Well,
Five?
How
what-
much has that
what-
happened?
have you ever heard of gangs? I mean, am I the only one's ever heard of gangs?
Yeah,
Right,
but
they
I don't
break into
see
And
your
gang
that.
violence? All right, what about carjackings? Do you ever hear about the carjackings where you're driving like
This
this,
is
a guy
why-
gets in front of you, a guy gets behind you, and then they come out of the car?
A handgun's not going to be able to handle that? I
Well,
just
I don't even think they can
no,
do
no,
that.
you need an automatic weapon.
I'm answering
you know.
the question why people
I don't
have a
see-
right and have the right to self-defense that goes beyond their home. Now, you want to talk about assault weapons. We talked about this briefly before, and the answer to the question is if, when I said to you that the reason for the Second Amendment is to keep the balance of power in the hands of the people, and your reaction was, well, you're not going to be able to fight against the Army because they have bigger weapons. Which is just, to me, is another reason why we should have
I don't see
those
that.
firearms.
Well, let's get to what are you trying to do with the New Jersey Second?
Well, we have
Society?
three primary goals, right? It's education, promotion, and celebration. By that I mean we want to promote the safe and responsible use of firearms. We want to educate the public about firearms, and then we want, you know, because we do get so much pressure from the anti. We have a camaraderie as our third leg.
What about Christie? What's he been doing? How do you?
Christie has not been a friend of the firearms owner, but I will give him his credit due. He did veto the 3 worst and most egregious bills that were passed. So, I mean, out of 20 bills that hit his desk.
Well, are you primarily like you celebrate gun use using guns safely? Do you
Safely.
lobby? What else do you do to get?
No, we don't. Well, with lobby, it depends on what you mean by that. Do we speak to legislators and try to get them to understand our, just like we're having this conversation? Yes, all the time.
But when you go to like one of your get-togethers, what happens? You shoot guns. You learn about guns. You talk about.
You know, not very often do we get together to shoot.
It's all
guns.
volunteer. You're all volunteer.
Well,
You're not
we are
getting paid for this.
right. That is correct. The NJ2AS, which by the way you can go to our website at NJ2AS.com and find out more about us. is an all-volunteer amateur organization. No one gets paid a dime. And we do this because we believe that the right to keep and bear arms is an individual right of the people. And this is why we're...
Yeah, it's more of a club, and you celebrate gun use, and I mean, in a positive way. You like, those who want to shoot guns.
Yes, what we do is we try to introduce people like moms. We have a lot of moms, a lot of women. We're doing a lot of urban outreach now and so forth to bring people in.
Okay, we have to give you the final word. 1 minute. Dr. John Whitehead. So what do you got from this in 30 seconds?
I'm very interested. It's always a pleasure to learn new things. Coming from a different perspective, from an English background, I'm not so used to guns as they are in America, but I grew up on a small dairy farm where I shoot rabbits, and I've always used guns safely. My father was a farmer. I've learned how to handle guns safely, so I think I would be happy with Frank's version of
Okay, and we're going to have to come back maybe in January. We can continue this
Love to come back.
conversation. Well, this has been we could go on forever. I hope we've got our points up. We didn't shoot each other. This has been Breezin with Bierman.
We felt like it.
No, this is America. We can say what we want.
We
not
can
get
agree to
shot for it,
disagree.
and not get shot for it. Hopefully,
Exactly.
most times. Okay. Did you get your points? Did everyone get their points?
Yeah,
I think so.
Like you said, it was hard that we
I think so.
we jumped around so much. We could go on forever.
You know, oh yeah, we can do this. You know, I'd be more than happy to come back another time.
Yeah,
you know, we sit down and talk about this. A little bit more structured, maybe. You
Yeah,
know,
that's what I know it's free form.
because it's difficult. There's a lot to talk about.
If we jump
My
from a
TV is
debate
hard. We had
to
a better
him-
conversation before the
Yeah,
show.
I think
It
so,
always
too.
happens, which is why I filmed it.
Yeah,
then
I
I'll
think
make
so,
a-
too.
I'll
What
put it up on
I
YouTube
think
or
is
something.
good is that we're living in an evolving democracy. I mean, we're living in a world where laws are being changed, and they're being changed by people who have passion, and they see injustices, and they want, and that's the way it's always worked.